if he doesn't say anything about this ongoing legal case, he's accused of sort of hiding behind his royal privilege. And if he does speak out, he's then accused of damaging the monarchy in the process. So it's an impossible position to be in. The Queen herself says this: the royals are only around for as long as the public want them to be there. Whatever the outcome of these legal proceedings, his career as a royal is effectively over. The Duke of York's situation has changed dramatically in recent days. First of all, because a New York judge has decided that the case should go to trial, and subsequent to that, within 24 hours, Prince Andrew was then stripped of all of his royal ties. Prince Andrew had hoped that this case would be thrown out on a legal technicality. He had relied on the fact that his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, had signed an agreement with Jeffrey Epstein in 2009, basically saying that she wouldn't sue any of his associates. But actually the New York judge, Judge Lewis Kaplan, decided that that was too generalised. It didn't specify that she wouldn't sue Prince Andrew. I think the decisiveness in which the Queen dealt with this issue just 24 hours after the judge had ruled that the case could go to trial in America is quite telling. Sources close to the Duke say he needs that independence, because at the moment, if he doesn't say anything about this ongoing legal case, he's accused of sort of hiding behind his royal privilege. And if he does speak out, he's then accused of damaging the monarchy in the process. So it's an impossible position to be in. And then from the royal family's point of view, why would they want, in this year of years, as they prepare to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee with commemorations in May and June, why would they want that to be overshadowed by the Duke of York? What do they do with him? How do you even solve a problem like the Duke of York? He can't be present at the celebrations while the legal case is hanging over his head. They don't want him to prove a distraction. Imagine coverage of all of these events in London and the Queen being on the balcony with Prince Andrew next to her. All of the papers would just be going on about Prince Andrew and the appropriateness or not of him being there, rather than commemorating her 70 years on the throne. The input from other members of the family is significant. I think in the absence of Prince Philip, who was ultimately the patriarch of the family and also the Queen's chief advisor on family matters, you've then seen a stepping up by both Prince Charles and Prince William when it comes to making these key decisions. Clearly they were both consulted heavily when it came to the action that's been taken against the Duke of York. And we also understand that his siblings, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, were brought into the fray in order to try and work out a way forward. I don't know, because it's hard to corroborate stories of the Duke of York being in tears as his mother told him that he would no longer be able to have any of his military affiliations and indeed hold on to any of his royal patronages. The finality of that, I think, is hugely significant. When the palace made the announcement, which was very brief, it was only sort of 49 words if you include the introduction, a statement about the Duke of York, the briefing that came with that was very much, look, he's never going to get these royal affiliations back. They're being given to other members of the royal family. So you have to conclude then that despite whatever happens with this case, whatever the outcome of these legal proceedings, his career as a royal is effectively over. This is the dilemma facing the Duke of York now. If he does go all the way to trial, that carries an enormous amount of risk, because he is going to have to prove a negative. He's going to have to prove that he didn't sexually assault Virginia Giuffre when she was 17 years old on 3 separate occasions. And we've seen from his Newsnight interview that clearly he thinks he has a defence.
She said she had sex with you 3 times.
No.
For instance, this claim that he wasn't in London at Tramp nightclub, as she claimed, at that moment where she was assaulted allegedly in 2001. He was actually at Pizza Express in Woking, and by the way, he couldn't have been sweating profusely at the nightclub because he has a, quote, peculiar medical condition which means he cannot sweat. He's going to have to prove all this. Similarly, Mrs. Giuffre is also going to have to prove what she's saying, but her burden of proof is almost less, because in a civil case, she just has to prove that she was sexually assaulted by him on a balance of probabilities. The other things that are clouding this, of course, are the fact that there's no doubt at all Mrs. Giuffre was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and, by association, Ghislaine Maxwell. And therefore she is a victim, undoubtedly. Any criticism that comes of her then, this suggestion that she might be creating, quote, false memories, or that she's not telling the truth, or that there are holes in her testimony, you get a whole body of people saying, no, that's not acceptable treatment of a survivor of sexual abuse. People saying you can't rake over her history and question her mental health and her memories, because actually by doing that, you're victim blaming and you're going to be putting off other women from coming forward with these sorts of allegations against high profile, high powered men. Is the easiest thing for both of them to just settle and walk away? Well, again, that's difficult for the Duke of York. A settlement always in the court of public opinion is going to imply some guilt, even if it might not be there, if he hasn't been found guilty of anything. Everyone will be saying, why has he paid her off? The difficulty for the Duke of York, and indeed his team, is that his reputation is in tatters whatever happens next. So he could go through with this whole trial, and there is an argument for saying, look, if you're protesting your innocence that vehemently, go and test it in court. Go and win this so that you can clear your name. The trouble is, it's already been found guilty in the court of public opinion. So this idea of him somehow being restored to royal life, it's almost a fallacy, not just because of the statement that Buckingham Palace has put out, unequivocally saying there's no way back, but equally because the Queen herself says this. The royals are only around for as long as the public want them to be there. And if the public don't want to see the Duke of York on parade, so to speak, then he doesn't have a royal future, at least not from an official capacity. So regardless of the outcome of any of these legal proceedings, when it comes to the Duke of York's royal career, it's over.